Your cat does not miss you the way you miss them. That is not a cold fact. It is actually something more interesting than that. And by the end of this, it will change the way you feel every time you walk out that door. Most owners leave the house carrying a version of guilt they cannot quite explain. You close the door, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you picture your cat sitting there, waiting, staring at the spot where you just were, lonely, maybe a little lost. And that image follows you to work, to the grocery store, to wherever you went, quiet and persistent. But that image is wrong, not because your cat does not care about you. They do, more than most people realize, but the way a cat processes your absence is so fundamentally different from what owners imagine that the two versions have almost nothing in common. Think about the last time you came home after a few hours away. You opened the door, and where was your cat? Not at the entrance waiting, tail wagging, overwhelmed with relief the way a dog would be. Maybe they were asleep in your chair. Maybe they appeared from another room a full minute after you walked in, completely unhurried, like the timing was entirely their decision. Maybe they walked straight to your bag and spent 30 seconds sniffing it before they acknowledged you at all. That was not indifference. Have you ever stopped to think about what that actually was? Because there is a reason your cat goes to your bag before they come to you, a reason they were in your chair and not at the door, a reason the greeting happened on their terms, at their pace, in their sequence. None of it is random. All of it is telling you something specific about what your absence actually means to them. And what your cat does in those first minutes after you leave, the exact sequence of behaviors that unfolds the moment that door closes, is one of the most misunderstood things about the animal most owners believe they already know. The moment you leave, your cat does not freeze, they activate. This is the part that surprises almost every owner, because it is the opposite of what they imagined was happening while they were gone. Researchers who studied cat behavior during owner absence used in-home cameras to document what actually happens after the door closes. What they found was consistent across almost every cat observed. Within minutes of the owner leaving, the cat began moving through the home in a specific pattern, checking rooms, marking surfaces with their face, exploring areas they typically ignore when the owner is present. In plain language, your absence does not shut your cat down. It opens the house up. Think about what your home looks like from your cat's perspective when you are there. Your movements create a kind of invisible structure. The couch is occupied, the kitchen has activity, certain rooms are in use. Your cat navigates around all of that, adjusting their behavior to yours, staying aware of where you are, what you are doing, whether the environment is about to shift. The moment you leave, that structure disappears, and your cat moves into the space it left behind. That is why they sleep in your chair, not because they miss you, but because your scent is concentrated there, and your scent is one of the most powerful environmental anchors your cat has. Resting in it is not longing, it is regulation. Your smell, even without you present, tells their nervous system that this is a safe space. Pay attention to this. The cat that ignored you for the first minute when you came home was not being cold. They were finishing something, completing a circuit that your return interrupted. And the sniffing of your bag was not a greeting, it was a debrief. Your cat was reading everything you brought back with you, where you went, what you touched, what followed you home in invisible traces on your clothes and hands. That sequence, chair, then slow appearance, then bag, then you, is not random behavior. It is a cat processing your return in exactly the order that makes sense to them. And what happens right before you come home is even more specific than that. There is something your cat does before you even reach the front door, and almost no owner ever connects it to what happens next. A few minutes before you arrive home, your cat already knows you are coming, not because they heard your car, not because they recognized your footsteps in the hallway. Earlier than that, research on cat behavior and owner return patterns found that many cats begin moving toward the entrance several minutes before any audible signal of the owner's approach. The leading theory is that cats track the pattern of your absence, the rhythm of how long you are typically gone, and begin anticipating your return based on time alone. In plain language, your cat has your schedule memorized, and their body starts preparing for you you before you are anywhere near home. Think about what that actually means. While you were gone, your cat was not waiting in a frozen, anxious state. They were living, exploring, resting, moving through the house on their own terms. And at some point, without any external trigger, something internal shifted, and they started drifting toward the door. That is not a cat that does not care about your return. That is a cat whose entire internal clock is calibrated to you. And here's what makes it even more specific. The cats who show the strongest anticipatory behavior, the ones who are closest to the door, the most alert, the quickest to respond, are almost always the ones who have the most established bond with their owner. The behavior is not breed-dependent. It is not age-dependent. It tracks directly to the depth of the relationship. Your cat's response to your absence is a direct reflection of what you mean to them, not in the way humans express attachment, not with visible longing or distress, in a quieter, more internal way that most owners walk right past without ever reading it correctly. Write in the comments, what does your cat do the moment you walk through the door? That first thing, before anything else. I want to know. Because what comes next is the practical part, and it will change how you leave and how you come back starting today. The way you leave matters more than you think. Most owners do one of two things when they walk out the door. They either make it a big moment, long goodbye, multiple pets, talking to the cat in a voice that signals something is about to change, or they disappear without any acknowledgement at all, door closing mid-movement, transition abrupt and sudden. Both of those create the same problem. Your cat does not need a ceremony when you leave, but they do need consistency. The way you exit is a signal, and your cat reads it every single time. A drawn-out, emotional goodbye raises the arousal level of your cat's nervous system right before you remove yourself from the environment. You leave them activated, not settled. And an abrupt exit with no signal at all removes a predictable anchor without replacing it with anything. What works is something much simpler. Develop an exit pattern and repeat it exactly. It doesn't matter what it is, specific word, brief touch on the same spot, a moment of calm acknowledgement before you move to the door. Not long, not emotional, just consistent. Your cat does not need reassurance. They need information. A repeated exit pattern tells them this departure is the same as every other one, and every other one ended with you coming back. The return matters too. When you come home, do not go straight to your cat. Come in, put your things down, let the environment settle for a moment. Let your cat run their sequence, the approach, the sniff, the assessment on their own pace. The owners who get the most enthusiastic greetings over time are almost always the ones who give their cats the space to initiate, because a cat that chooses to come to you is more connected than a cat that was pulled into an interaction before they were ready. Your cat does not experience your absence the way you imagine it. There is no cat sitting at the window counting the hours waiting for the door to open. What there is an animal whose internal clock is set to you, whose sense of safety is built partly around your patterns, whose first move when you walk back in is to read everything about where you have been. That is not indifference. That is a relationship built in a language most owners never learn to speak. Tell me in the comments, what is the first thing your cat does when you walk through the door? I want to read it. And if you want to understand what your cat is actually doing every time you think they are doing nothing, subscribe. That's what this channel is for.